Hi Booktube! So since I'm participating in Shorty September, where we're reading books 250 pages or less, I figured I needed to do frequent updates on the books I've been reading. So it's September the 4th and I've read 4 books so far, and I have several that are ongoing at the moment. So I just know it's just gonna snowball. So before I realize it, so I wanted to catch you up on what I've been reading so far. I have a mixture here. I've been trying to do a fiction and then a nonfiction with my physical books. I have 2 stacks right here that are nonfiction and fiction, but then also incorporate a third rotation of ebooks. So I can do 2 physical books, nonfiction, fiction, and then an ebook. So I have a variety here to share with you. So starting with the nonfiction, I started the month with reading To the Woods, Sinking Roots, Living Lightly, and Finding True Home by Evelyn Searle Hess. And this is a local press to me, put on by the Oregon State University Press in Corvallis, Oregon, which is about an hour away from me. And this is about a woman who is living in Eugene, Oregon, and she has a very steady job, her and her husband both, and but it's always been her dream to run a nursery. And so even though she's in, I think, her 50s at the time, she decides to buy some land, around 20 acres, farther out of town. And at first she just wants to grow plants, but then something happens with her house in Eugene where she has to now unexpectedly, or kind of wanting to, move out on this property. But there's no house, there's no plumbing, there's no electricity, and this is modern era. Like this was published in, let me see here, 2010. So I'm not talking about like the good old days. And so they move into a shed that is just now going to be used as a house, and they're just using it for a little bit while they are getting their plans for building their house on this property, and just getting things in motion with, now they can focus more time on tilling the land and all of that. But they end up living in the shed for 15 years. And I don't know how in the world she did it, because 15 years from when she was like in her 50s, she's like well into her 60s at that point, if not 70s. Or 1 second. Babe, what you doing? I keep my eye on her. I don't know what, I can't see what she's got. 1 second. Let's see. Where's your bone at, babe? Come here. I got one right beside me. One second. Hold it. Give her something that she should properly chew on, one of her own things. But now you might hear some chomping in the background. She always gets in a nibbly mood when I start talking, because it like stirs her up, wakes her up from her nap, and yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you might hear some noise. But yeah, this was good overall. The writing wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't spectacular. I've read other stories like this with much smoother, more like lyrical writing than this, but the message itself was well done. And here she is on the back. And then I went on to read Plain Song by Wright Morris, and this is part of the Penguin Contemporary American Fiction series. I've never heard of this author before, and he was also the winner of the 1981 American Book Award for Fiction. And this came out in 1980. Yeah, and something, I can't remember exactly where I heard about this book, but yeah, this cover is something. But it's what's interesting is this fits in with Shorty September. It is a total of 227 pages, but it's a multi-generational story, like a saga of the multi-generations. And normally with those kind of books, I've never read one, I feel like, under 400 pages. They're normally like pretty chunky books. At least 350, but for being a Shorty September, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize when I was getting into it that it covered many generations. But the main focus is Cora, and she is she met and is living with her husband in Lincoln, Nebraska, and she very much is biting her tongue and just getting through life. She doesn't seem to ever enjoy life. She just, there's people, her children and grandchildren, all of that are rotating around her, but she's not involved with anyone. So she's like the center of the story. And then you follow bits of her husband, and then you follow her daughter, and then her daughter's children, and it goes on from there. But the writing is very much like short and to the point. And even to the point, that part isn't always clear. but it doesn't have a lot of descriptive writing, and it doesn't give you much emotion to go on with these characters. That was the hardest part for me, was connecting to these characters. You never get a true sense of what they're feeling in the moment, and that, I feel like, is a point of the story, because they are, living on the plains in Nebraska. I feel like maybe they have to be more hardy and stoic, is what I'm guessing. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books from this author, Wright Morris. Let me know what you think of it. And then I read two completely different books from these two. I read Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. And I heard about this. I think I heard it from Michael Kevan. Like, his name was like going out of my head, because he was doing the Summer of Superman. And so I have read a few Superman comics, but not many, and for sure not this one, or several others that I had wrote down that I wanted to read in the future. But so yeah, this is a new to me author and illustrator, and I really did like the illustrations. It had a unique style with Alex Ross. I did like that compared to the more I don't know, like outline kind of drawings. This had more texture to the illustrations. But I wanted to read this as part of like the Superman summer thing with the new movie coming out. I haven't seen that movie, and I've only seen one other Superman movie in my life, so like, I'm not a big superhero viewer or enthusiast, but I do like occasionally, dipping my toe into things like that, and just seeing what I make of it. But this is interesting because it's following Superman like years later from what I've seen in the past from him. Like, he has gray hair in some parts, and but he's still teaming up with like the Justice League, with like Wonder Woman and so on. They're fighting evil and all that. But yeah, I really liked the story, and I feel like I'm not the one to do a review or a description of this, because I'm not a big comic book reader, but I did enjoy it for what it was. And I know, like, I understood the story, but I know for sure, because I don't have that background knowledge and history with the series, or with the characters, that I know I was missing some key points here and there, but I did recognize the characters like Batman and all of that. And then the last book I read was, I heard about this from Juan, from Just Juan Reader. I love his channel. He's always including opera in his videos. Like, he's always like breaking out in song, and I just love that. But he had mentioned a couple weeks ago, Harry, A History by Melissa Anelli. It says the true story of a boy wizard, his fans, and life inside the Harry Potter phenomenon. And this is following the woman who created a website back when the books were being published in the early 2000s, called The Leaky Cauldron. And so it follows her life at the time, and going through the years of the books being published, and how her website is suddenly garnering all this success and attention. And so she's able to quit her rough job at the time, and like move up the ladder a bit, and like and become a published author, like a full-time author for the first time. And so along with her, excuse me, my nose is itching. I think like with Fable walking around, the hair is just flying everywhere, and I'm on the floor. But yeah, so following her story, but then also just the part I liked about this was the Harry, A History part of it, where you're reading like some like insider knowledge that she had working with the publishers, and she got to meet and talk with J.K. Rowling multiple times throughout the years. And so I really liked that part, and this more than anything made me want to go back and reread the books. But yeah, this is charming enough for what it was. I think if you go into it wanting just what the title is saying, Harry, A History, you might be disappointed, because it does, like, it's a split focus for sure. I would say like a third of it is Harry Potter related, and then 2/3 is more about her and her website and things like that. So it might be a bit misleading. But yeah, I did like the insight with the fans and all that. She even covered like different band, like musician groups that were started because of Harry, and some of them were started as a joke and then became successful. So little things like that was very interesting. So happy to have read that one, and I need to reread the Harry Potter series books. It's been a long time, because I grew up reading them, not as a kid. I like poo-pooed it for quite some time. I remember my classmates in school were really into it, and I've always been a big reader. But I was like, oh no, it's popular, then it's beneath me or something. I don't even know. I was very much a snob as a kid. Now I'm fine with anything, but yeah. So it took me until high school. Sometime in high school, the books came out. I think when yeah, no, I was in elementary school when the first book came out, and I didn't read them until 10th grade when I was a junior. But then I reread them after that because like, it was right when the last book came out my senior year in high school. So I got to like graduate with Harry in a way. Like it came out like a week or so after my high school graduation, so that was fun. And I always, when I reread those books, it always connects me to the high school times. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.